my name's Erik. This is our model today, Craig, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to show you kind of quite a modern, funky haircut. As you can see, Craig's hair through the top area, the hair itself is really quite fine, and it's a little bit finer through the top, sort of thinning, and there's a fair amount of length. So we're going to take this a bit shorter through the crown to give us a little bit of texture, but also peak towards the front to keep this excess length around the hairline. When we expose the hairline through here, you can see that Craig's hairline is quite receding through this top area. So again, hence the reason keeping that little bit of extra length over that front. As we look at the sides, when you look straight on, you can see it's quite rounded. So this area here, again, really fairly long and quite thick and heavy. So we're going to be taking it shorter around the ears. We're going to remove all of this bulk and length through that side and back area through there. Now, as we come round to the neckline area, what you can see is that the neckline itself, again, a fairly common neckline, everything grows up from either side and into the middle. This creates a much thicker, denser peak of hair through there. So the way we're going to approach this is we're going to remove all of the bulk and thickness. We're actually going to keep some of this hair around here and on this area, and the reason is it's part of the neckline. A lot of people tend to round this off, but it shouldn't be. It should be cut straight down through this corner area and keeping these pointed areas. So we're actually going to take this area here and there a lot finer and closer. We're still going to keep this, and it's going to make the neckline look much more normal. As we come round to the side area, again, cutting the hair around and over the top of the ear, removing the bulk and so on. So this will give us something that's really quite modern, as I say, but helps to cover the receding hairline that our model has got. So okay, we'll get cracking. Okay, hi. So this is us all ready to go. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm just going to get my model to tilt his head down. You can see through here that when the hair's wet, it's a lot finer, so you can actually see this is kind of the beginning of male pattern baldness through this front and top area, but also this whole top area just starting to thin. So again, what we're going to do is, rather than use a method which is going to thin this hair down, we're actually going to use a mixture of club cutting with the scissors. So we're going to keep the weight sharp towards the edges, but we're going to point cut it so that instead of it being a proper uniform layer through this top and very solid club cut lines, we're going to have a little bit more point cutting, but still using the scissors. So we're going to just slightly round. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we keep the hair nice and wet, and we're then going to take a central guideline, and the actual length we're going to do is like this. So it's going to be longer at the front area through here. As we work back along the top towards the crown area, then that taper will come down. So lift this up, and again, you'll see what I mean here by we're then going to start to point cut. So we're keeping all of the weight at the edges, but giving us this graduated effect. So still angling the fingers down, okay, towards the crown area, and you can see that this area is that little bit shorter through there. So we're now going to comb that area across, and the majority of this haircut is fairly simple and straightforward. We're doing a point cut uniformed layer through this main area with excess length around the front, and then as we come to the side areas, what's going to happen is we're going to lift this up, and you can see again our guideline through this front area. So we will then just keep point cutting through there just to remove that length. As we come back, we will be getting a little bit shorter and shorter all the way through the haircut, and this just keeps removing that excess length in the middle areas. Okay, so as we work towards the crown area, again coming round, you can see the excess length through there. So, okay, working all the way down and removing that bulk. So we've done our central guideline, comb the guide across, first panel around, and we're actually working in sections down the head and all the way round. So now you'll start to see, as we lift all this excess length, this bottom area we're going to be clippering. So I can change the method of point cutting through the top, which won't be clippered and it'll be finished, to club cutting, basically just to remove all of the excess length around that area. So last section, which is going to be point cut all the way around. Okay, so as we come down to the side area now, you'll be able to see this is the area that we've point cut. So what I'm doing now is I'm now just going to club cut to remove that excess length. And you can see that there's my guideline, and I can see this through the actual hair. So just following that guide all the way around, just working through the back area. So again, there's the guideline there. Working round towards that back area. Okay, and then back towards the front, and this is going to be this very bottom area now. So, and one of the things to pay attention to is whenever you're doing a short graduation like this, that it's all about the angle of the fingers. So a uniform layer will follow the contour of the head. What this long graduation is shorter through here, coming out the way. Short graduation comes in the way. So when you're doing this, the point that to make you aware of is that the fingers need to be close into the head. Now you can see here, what I'm doing is, there's my guideline through the top. I'm actually keeping my fingers onto the scalp, and then I'm working that guideline through. So you can see it removes that length, and it gives you that tapered effect right the way into the corner area. Really fairly easy to follow, just working down into that nape. So as we work around the head, okay, so we've actually got to the baseline through there. So the last bit, and you can see again, this is the internal structure. So we're just following that contour right in and tapered into that bottom part of the neckline. Okay, so that's us basically cut the top area and remove the excess bulk through here. So what we'll do now is we will move across. So we've got our central guideline. So if I lift this up, again, you can see the shortness through that area there. So what we're going to do, as I say, is we'll now start to work on the other side. So again, back to the point cutting method. Just following the guide, just making sure that we're taking it a fraction shorter as we work towards the crown area. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is, rather than me actually pick up this section now and look to cut that way, because I'm effectively cutting, you can see the scissors are facing down the way, this will cause the hair to slide out of the cut. So we're going to turn the head all the way round, and we're going to now work in this method. So we've worked from here all the way round. We've got this panel done, so we're now going to work from there. And again, you can see the guideline through the top, and then this excess length through there. So removing this, that point cutting method to keep the texture. Okay. And we're increasing the length very slightly as we come towards the front to keep that excess length through there. This again will help us cover over the type of hairline that Craig has. Okay, so moving down onto this back area, so we can start to club cut again, because this is the area that's going to be cut with the clippers and blended through. Now each section I'm picking up, again you can see there's the guideline through the scissors, so again fairly simple and straightforward to follow. Okay, so moving down again, and we're just working in panels, dropping down each time to come back round into that guideline. So again, you can see the guideline underneath, making sure that the angle of the fingers tapers in towards the nape area, and this will give us the short graduation. Okay. And then through this back area, just again keeping our fingers really close to the scalp, and this will allow us to take away that excess hair. Now, as I start to look at the neckline area that we've got here, what you're starting to see is you're starting to see the actual growth patterns of the haircut. So you can see here, this is something that's really quite important. So what we've got is this area here. When I comb this across, you can see where the hair grows that little bit thicker. But remember, if we cut this off, we're going to create either a rounded neckline, and we want to have a tapered one. But you can also see, just looking at the hair naturally, that this is a lot finer around here, and then you've got thicker areas in the middle. So we're actually going to cut this wrong, but it will look right. And the reason, or the way that we're going to be able to do that, is that I'm going to comb this across, we're going to edge down, and we're actually going to keep some of this neck hair, remove some of the bits that stick out. But you can see in this area here, where that's a lot thicker, the hair just grows more and it's heavier in there. So all of this area there, we're going to take it closer so that we can see through it a bit more, and we're going to leave this a little bit longer. And what that will do is it will mean that it looks very similar, because at the moment you can see massive differences of really fine, and people tend to cut all this off, and it's part of the hairline, so it really should be kept. So we're going to dry the hair off now, because we've finished that top area. So and I need to do the clippering on dry hair. Okay, so this is the first part that we're going to do here. We've finished this top area, so now what we're going to be doing is cutting around here and so on, and blending all of this into that. The first thing really majorly we have to do is remove a lot of this bulk and length. So I'm actually going to work with the clippers and comb in a freehand method. So the first thing, we're going to be turning the clipper on, and we're working from the side up through here. So what this is doing is this is starting to blend into the areas of where the fringe will be, and so on. Again, combing back, working from there around. So now what I want to do is, I want to see where the ear is. Okay. So you can see we're taking it just to the very edge of the ear, in that area there. Okay, so I'm extending the clipper fully, and then we're just going to taper the sideburns away. And this gives me the beginning here, where we can actually start now to work with the freehand tapering technique to actually start blending. So initially we're going to work like this and work up the head, and then I'm going to work across and remove some of this bulk. So it's difficult to talk while the clipper's going, so we'll kind of work in between. Okay, so no guard, full up. Okay, so from here you can see that they're starting to come up, and I'm allowing the clipper slowly to cut through the hair. So that starts to give us that tapered effect. Once we get higher up, I'm starting to remove this excess length and bulk through there. Okay, now you can see that as we use this technique, what we've got here is we've got a ridge on the haircut itself. Now, a ridge is always, or a line is always from above, it's never from beneath. So when we have a line there and people work from underneath to try and take that away, all they're doing is making this hair shorter, which makes that more accentuated. So what we need to do is we need to work from the top area and remove the bulk round the way. So if I actually lift this hair out, you'll be able to see where the bulk is. So if I lift from this line, so you can see it's predominantly from the top area. So it's this corner we need to round off, and what that will do is that will remove that bulk through there. But we're just going to work a little bit more through this to give us an area clean to work with there. Okay, so watch me coming up and over the top to remove this. So there's the line through here. So can you see it starts to round this off? And for the finer kind of polishing part of the haircut, so I'm going to turn around and come down the way. So just lifting this out and working, and you can see we're working fairly slowly. Okay, now I'm just going to show you what we've got at the side area as we come round the head. So, right, so you can start to see now that this area, we've tapered around there, and this is where things start to get a little bit difficult as such. When we tilt the head forward, we want to start and give ourselves a drop down baseline through here, and we're not going to shave this off and bring it round, as I say, because this is all part of the neckline, certainly this peak and corner. So before we can remove any bulk on the inner area, I want to make sure that I've got the outside properly kind of cemented in, and to make sure that I know exactly where those lines are. So 2 hands again. Slowly. So, and again, what you're really looking to do is, you can see the size of the blade that we've got, so this gives us a really quite a strong, bold line. You don't do this where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, because the more times you touch the head, the more likely you are to have a different angle, and it doesn't give as strong a line. So what we want to do here is touch it as few times as possible. So there's 1 from the edge. There's 2 slowly, and then bring down, and then the 3rd one from there all the way down. Okay, so you can see that we've actually got a drop down line now. So I'm going to then start to clean up, just very gently. At this point, be aware of open follicles and so on that you can either catch with a comb, or more to the point with the teeth of the clipper. So be really quite gentle when you're actually doing this and coming down that area there. Okay, so we'll come to this bit once we've done through there. So you can see here that we've got our guideline. So I'm going to be working from this bottom area all the way through. And again, when you look at the head, you can see all of this neck hair and so on. As I say, people just cut that off. You actually still need it. It is part of the haircut itself. So, okay. Now, because I'm going with the growth pattern of the hair, you can see that this is brushing this up. If I come down the way, you can see it protrude much more. So initially we're going to work with everything coming up the way. That will highlight the areas that I need to change direction for. So just through there. Okay, so again, now this is a good thing to show through here. Can you see, with tapering and clippering and so on, everything is all about shading and shadow. Now, when you look directly straight on at this area here, you can see that we have a darker area there. Now, the reason for that is because this darker area is in the area which is thicker, but it's the one area that actually grows up the way. If you look at everything else, it's starting to come more down and across. This is that bit coming up through there. So it does that and comes in. Just that area there. So as we do this, we're flattening that there, that against the scalp, and then actually cutting in here. So this is where, through shading and shadow, we can actually leave some areas a little bit longer. We can take some areas a little bit shorter, and because that's thicker and more dense, and that's finer and more finer, I suppose, for the want of a better word, because that area there is, as I say, much finer, we keep a little bit more there, we take that a little bit shorter, and the two of them compensate and will look even for each other. So we're just working through, and as I say, when I do this now and bring that down the way, you'll see excess length there. So let's just remove a little bit of that excess length. So just gently coming down and removing that. And what you'll see is this. So can you see now that the colour starts to look much more even? So now that that looks more even, it's now starting to encompass this area here. So we want to keep this peak. We'll remove these neck hairs. The peak is down that way to there. So we're going to work around the head that little bit more, and just you'll get to see how the haircut works that little bit easier once we remove a little bit more bulk. Now what I'm also doing is, just as I'm working through here, I'm mainly concentrating more down here. I know that I'm deliberately leaving more weight through there. The reason is I want to show you another couple of methods on how to remove those, both with scissor over comb and also with polishing the haircut. But we'll create and finish off this neckline area first. So you can see here, half of the guideline, half in the clipper. So we're working that way. So this is my guide and I'm following the rest, and it's just a lot easier to work in panels to come up the head with the previous bit that you've actually done. So again, going with the growth pattern, so you can see what we're doing is we're just flattening this down. So we'll come back to that on the way down. So as I lift this up, it's just flattening it against the head. So as much as I'm trying to remove that length, you can see the darker areas mean nothing's coming off. So let's just work up and round. Okay, now this is something else that's quite important as well. It's about how you hold the comb. There's lots of different types of combs and so on you can buy. This one is a black diamond number 711 by DuPont, available in most places. For me, the reason this is good is the fact that the comb itself is bendable. So yeah, you can actually take it right the way round, and what will happen is it's still quite flexible but also quite rigid as well. So again, really fine area, quite thick. So this is great to work with. So you can see, as I say here, that this area is now darker in that bit there. So what we're going to do is we're going to now come down the way, and I think if I turn you round to that angle there, so what you can see here is, look at the contour, it comes down. Now watch that area there as I bring it down. So this is all flat, and then can you see the excess length now? So again, that shows us where this is longer through there. So if you see a darker area, what you need to do is kind of comb the hair in different directions to actually see which way it needs to go to remove that excess length. So initially, I'm going to come against the growth because it goes that way. So I'm going to come this way, and just the other thing that you can do, watch, move the comb. So put it in, move the comb this way, just tiny bit though, and that will open up and lift that hair out from the head. So again, just slow down and actually work in smaller areas, and you will achieve a better result and generally quicker. So just moving it slightly across to lift that hair out. So you can see now that what it's doing is it's starting to remove that excess bulk in those areas. Right. So turn the clipper again on the side, work from that area there. The other thing you can do is from there, all the way down. Just gently, very softly going. Okay, so when we're looking at the neckline area now, what I'm going to be doing is just looking at the whole thing straight on and actually making sure everything is perfectly level. Okay, so I'm going to work with full guard, so I'm extending the clipper right up. In fact, sorry, I'm going to just take these away. Now watch the way I'm turning around. So can you see that I'm working that way, again, to keep this point? And I'm going to sculpt around that area. So again, if you look at this whole neckline, you'll see what I mean as we work. So remember, no guard on this at all. So this is the shortest that the clipper itself will go. And I'm just flicking very slightly. Right. Now, when you look at the two areas now of the neckline, you can see that predominantly we've still got a little bit of a darker area there. So again, I'm going to take that a fraction shorter. But when you look at the side areas, you can see that these hairs still stick out on both areas. So this again is another kind of technique which will show you about doing this and removing that. So instead of working up the way, the hair grows up, so we want to come down and against the growth pattern. So extend the clipper fully. And we're going to work with this in two different ways. The first way is we're going to work with it flat against the scalp that way. Now, as you look at the clipper, you can see that because we're working with it at this angle, that you've got the maximum depth in the guard that we've got. Once I come down a little bit more, I'm then going to start to change the angle in the body of the clipper to do more this. And what happens is, instead of working with this area here, we're actually going to work with this area. So it's actually going to get closer and closer to the scalp. So we'll do that as we get lower and lower down, which will give us a natural fade. And this is a really quick and easy way to do this. So again, just focus on this area and you'll see what I mean. So full guard. Okay, now watch as we change the angle. Okay, so now what you can see is that you can actually see there that this fades from light to dark. And again, this is where the hair is a lot thicker. And you can see what I mean now about keeping this area. This is part of the neckline. This gives us a real nice tapered effect. Normally, come down and you cut that off. That's not the right thing to do. So as we work in this area through here, we're just going to take the guard back off slightly. So back up, you've got 5 notches, up a couple of notches. And then again, with that area there, we're going to take that shorter to make it look even and give us a proper fade. So you can see now that what we've done is we've taken a really thick area and we've encompassed a really fine area, and we've got the two of them to blend and look fairly natural. So we're just going to move back around this head and the neck area, and you can see now that we're going to thin this area and just do exactly the same on both sides as what we've done all the way through. So full guard. Okay, moving back around again, full guard, round the other way, gradually bringing it down the way. Okay, so that now is giving us a really nice, sharp, graduated taper through that neckline area. Right. So now it looks as though all of the growth and everything really sits quite well. So we're going to go through and carry on the side panel now, and we'll get these side panels to actually blend. Okay, so from this area, again, still same thing, half on, half off the guide. And here, effectively, I'm just removing the excess bulk. Okay, so could you hold your ear for me, please? So now what I'm doing here, I'm just getting the model to hold the ear. And the reason for this is that you can see predominantly, and this is very normal, most people's hair around the edges here actually, look at the difference. There, the growth pattern comes straight down. But as soon as we start to get to the curve of the hairline, the ear junction and so on, the hair does this, down, 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 and then kicks around. So these areas here, when we're trying to do that, sometimes you can't get them. So again, look at this bit here. Can you see the excess hair that we've got? So just by pulling it against its growth, you can take that little bit shorter. So now again, this is something that you can do with the small clippers. It's entirely up to yourself, really. Okay, that's you. So as you can see, one of the things for me is to keep the client nice and clean as much as possible, but also what this does is this lets you see what you still need to do. So you can see here that I can see what hair's attached and all this sort of thing. I can also see where it's nice and clean, but I can see that I still have a few bits there. If this was covered in hair, I wouldn't be able to see that. So full guard again, take the clipper, the sideburn off. And notice that I'm starting to angle the clipper very slightly there, and this just gives me a slight graduation to come out from the ear. Okay, and then the last bit, now this is something that I just want to show you as well. Can you see this bit here? This is the excess from that top area, from the fringe and so on. I want to change over tools just very, very quickly, just because I'm going to use a razor here, because if I use scissors with this, I'm running the risk of putting a line in the hair somewhere, and we don't really have any excess hair to play with. I want to keep that length. So just pinpoint this, softly razor through, and you can see what it's doing is it's creating the same effect of that soft graduated effect on that hairline. So, and I'm not worried too much about this part of the hair because that will be clippered as that part. It's the bit that's onto the forehead and the face that you can actually see through. I don't want lines in that because, again, that won't be right for the way that we're actually working. So just moving back to the last little bit, and you can see the excess bit here. There we have it there. Okay, so we've done pretty much the majority of the clippering, and this is what we've actually got now. So take your head slightly forward. You can see there's a few areas that are still a little bit lumpy and so on. Now, one of the things that I want to show you as you're looking at the head, so the profile line of the haircut is massively important, and you can see as we work, so we'll look at this, and then we're actually going to look all the way around, and you'll see the little tiny areas that still need to be done. We'll fix them, and then we'll do it again so you can see how they look. So look that way, straight down, and you can see little bumps and so on in the haircut. And just keep looking straight as we turn the head around, and you're looking at different angles again. You should be able to see a little bit of excess length around there, as we come down through here, maybe a little bit through here and here, and you can see the ridge in the haircut. So again, it's fairly prominent and quite simple to see. So there's a few different ways that we can do this. One of them, as I say, and I just want to show you what I mean by, you can see that this is definitely from the top area. So when I lift this hair up, bring that out, you can see the corner there, but you're still too heavy on this area that comes up the way. So again, a few different ways that we can actually, that we can sort this. Okay, so let's just bring them back round. And we're going to work now. I personally think the easiest way to do this is to actually lift the hair up in your fingers, because we're working with hair that's long enough that we can hold now. So when I lift this hair up, right, so you're going to see there. Okay, can you see that bulk? So that's basically what's causing this to be too rounded. Now I'm going to taper some, and you can see again through here. So let's, okay, so as I'm doing that, what it's starting to do is it's starting to remove a little bit of that excess bulk. So that's option number one. Option number two, is to actually scissor over comb the bulk. So again, now this, we all get taught to scissor over comb this way, to come out the way. That's right initially, but once you start to get higher up, to remove any lines, you've got to, instead of coming that way, you've got to come up, but then back up and over the top. And it's this corner here, which is this excess length around the front. So if you're coming out the way, you can see that you're going to keep that rather than take it away. So you'll see the motion that we're doing. Rather than coming out the way here, we're going to come up and then over the top. So you can see we're removing that bulk as we work through that top layer. And this again will remove a lot of that excess weight in the middle. Okay, so as we're working through the head, we're starting to remove that. Now the other way that you can do it, in fact, we'll come around this side. So you can see here, see this line and this bulk. Now this is again something, it's a similar concept, it's just all about taking that front layer and that top layer that little bit shorter. So I'm going to turn my hand around that way. You can see we've got the line there, and then what I'm doing is I'm working and I'm closing my fingers onto the hair and I'm pulling the hair up, and it causes the hair to do this. Right, so if you watch this line, can you see that the hair changes? And what's happening is I'm pulling this by me doing that. And remember, what am I leaving? I'm left with the top layers, and it's the top layers that are the bit that's causing you the problem. So again, turn your hand around onto the scalp, and then if we do this, what it does is, as you can see there, we've still got the line here, but it starts to remove it there. So we're just going to work around the haircut and get rid of some of that bulk, and then we'll be straight back. Okay, so what we've done, we've just, as I say, removed that little tiny bit of excess bulk that was there and just tidied everything up. Now, the final part to the haircut is, again, as we look at the profile line, can you see all the small areas? I want to sharpen those up and to give us a perfect contour. But that contour, basically, we'll turn the head all the way around and will give us this shape all the way through the whole thing. So we're just going to take you through that. So I think you should be able to see that bit just there that's actually sticking out. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm coming down in eye line to actually see what I'm looking at there, and then I'm going to be working like this so I can see what I'm actually skimming off, and I'm just going to work around that whole haircut to do that. Okay, and you can see we're coming from the top round, and it's almost sculpting the hair into shape. And then just looking down the profile line as we work around the whole haircut, just to see what needs to be done and what has to come off. So we're not actually cutting a new line here, a new profile line. All we're doing is polishing anything that's outside the existing one. So little tiny hairs and so on that are there. And you can see, as we look at the profile line of the haircut, it actually gives us a real nice soft shape through there. Keep still. Probably not a good method for children or Saturday mornings after a Friday night out. So you start to see the contour that we're actually achieving. And remember, there's no guard on this, so it's right up close as much as it can be to give us that sharper feel to the haircut. Okay, I think that's us. So the other thing that we're going to do is we're just going to clean up the neckline with a cutthroat razor. So you can see, here we are with the neckline area. So now again, we've just put in a new blade. Every single time, blood-borne diseases, cross-infection and so on. So that is something that should be adhered to. Slightly. Across. Okay, so, and what I'm going to do is I'm stretching the neck, and we're just going to work with this razor to clean this area here. Now, I'm not actually going to be touching the skin at all. If I was going to do that, certainly with anywhere that we've actually done, I would be applying gloves just for the safety. So skin nice and taut, and you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm starting there and I'm coming down a little bit. I'm coming back to this area here where it's fresh, we've cut the hair. So again, really quite soft, coming back up and all the way. So basically you come down a little bit, come back up to the top, down a bit further, back up, down a bit further, back up. And the reason is because when the hair has been cut and it's a soft skin, it's a lot easier to glide over that. So just nice and taut. And I'm going to do this all in one movement and one motion. So we're going to work up, and you can see that gives us that nice contour and that shape into the neck area. Okay, around again, so straight forward this time, stretch the neck again, and each time I'm just going a little bit higher up into the contour, and then back down again through there. And I'm being very, very gentle and very light. So again, stretch the corner. We're going to use the back end, the heel of the blade now. Just move the ear out of the way. And you can see we're just following that same contour all the way down. Okay, so that gives us that really nice, sharp, neat neckline. And you can see what we've got through there. So you head forward. When we've lifted this up, all of this thickness we've taken finer, we've left that through there to actually make the whole neckline look and feel the way it should do through there. So we'll style it now and we'll be straight back.